I now recognize myself for 5 minutes. I want to thank the members for being here in front of this committee today. You are all trusted to be independent with protecting the strength of the American economy in your respective agencies. However, in my short 14 months here as a freshman member of Congress, I've witnessed continuous politically charged decisions, and I would offer backroom discussions that have left many folks out, including members on this committee on both sides of the aisle, as well as folks back in my hometowns. I believe that we should all agree at the forefront that folks in Altoona, Iowa should have a much larger say in our future economic success than modeling a regulatory structure that's being decided in Brussels, Belgium. So with that, in January, I led a bipartisan letter to your agencies, along with Senator from Kansas, Jerry Moran, who emphasized the impact of increasing bank capital requirements on the economy and the impact on our constituents, particularly those in the Agricultural Committee. It was signed not only by bipartisan members on this committee in the House, but also in the Senate. I was happy that the Fed at least acknowledged that we sent the letter over, and while you didn't provide any detail in here other than an acknowledgement that you received the letter, I'm still waiting to hear from the other two agencies who have just turned a blind eye to responding to this committee. That is disappointing. So let me be clear. The actions of your agency are hurting families back in small towns in Iowa, as well as in large communities across the country. Director Gibson, your boss at the Fed stated that the Fed will make substantial changes to the final Basel III proposal. Is it correct that the next draft includes concerns that my farmers voiced months ago?
So we have heard those comments, and they will be reviewed as we work on the final rule, yes.
The follow-up then is, could these end-user concerns or other concerns been mitigated if you had listened to them on the front end of this?
Well, we go through a public comment process precisely to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to comment. So we're getting those comments now, and we're carefully reviewing them.
For all of the panelists, I just want to be clear here. Would you agree that U.S. stakeholder input on the front end of these decisions is important for you to be able to execute on the back end when you make these decisions? Could I get a verbal yes or no?
Yes, I think it's important. That's the purpose of the rulemaking, exactly. Yep.
Yes, it does support the rulemaking process.
I agree.
Yes, that's part of our rulemaking process.
Good. I hope that we continue to have that before rather than after. I now want to talk on competitiveness. Right now, we're holding American companies to international regulatory standards when, despite this action by the current administration, our economy remains the envy of the world. In fact, the U.S. has 4.4% of the world's overall population, but as we all know, we have over 50% of the equities and debt raised in the world. So, for each of you, if the world comes to us for capital market solutions, then why do we continue to look to Europe as the leader when it comes to its financial markets? This is not a rhetorical question. It's one that we're currently engaged in. And why are your bodies imposing more stringent standards on an American company when our international peers implement the minimum recommendations for global standards, as we've seen time and time again?
So we're proposing rules like the capital proposal based on our domestic statutory mandates, and that's what we consider. And you know, we've received the comments, and we're evaluating those.
Mr. Billingsley.
Likewise, I think to Mike's point, we're trying to implement rules in the United States that are fit for purpose here, but the comment process is critically important.
As we engage in the rulemaking process, Congressman, I think we take into account the particularities of the U.S. financial system in proposing and then receiving comments that we take into account before we move forward to finalize any rule.
Just as a quick reminder for all of us here, the U.S. economy continues to lead because of the great success of the American enterprise, and including that of the rest of the world, continues to follow our lead. Perhaps we should emphasize the fact that we are leading in this area and not continue to restrict in this area, in my feelings, very arbitrarily. With the remaining time that I have, I'd like to highlight the fact of I remain concerned that if we continue on this path, every agency will be a climate regulator in 5 years across the board here. Director Gibson, is it consistent with the Federal Reserve to say it is not a climate policymaker while simultaneously being committed throughout the Fed's work that the NGFS, to furthering the NGFS goals, amount to a climate policymaking regime?
So the Federal Reserve is not a climate policymaker. We have responsibility for bank supervision and bank safety and soundness. And we only take climate-related financial risks into account to the extent they interact with our existing mandate.
My time has expired. At this point, I would like to thank Dr. Gibson, Mr. Billingsley, Ms. Gardenier for your testimony today. I know this has been a long process, and I appreciate you giving time to this committee to be here. Without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days within which to submit additional written questions for the witnesses to the chair. The questions will be forwarded to the witnesses for a response. I would ask that our witnesses respond as soon as possible, not in excess of 90 days. This is a hearing adjourned. Thank you.